I think it's probably worth mentioning that as soon as, for a lot of Christian people, as soon as they hear, oh, there's this sort of alien life and it seems to have a more of a supernatural element to it, they'll quickly just equate it with, oh, it's just demonic, it's demons. And I don't think, and this is something you point out, that's a helpful analysis to make. And of course, as soon as you hear things you try and which you don't quite understand, you try and fit it into your current worldview in a way that makes it work. But to start off, considering we have such a one-dimensional view and understanding of the supernatural and the Christian worldview, it's probably worth putting that on pause until we actually look at the data, look at the kind of field properly to see whether it conforms to that and what that might look like.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah, it can be a way of just dismissing out of hand and not looking at things. And actually, we don't go away much wiser because our idea of the demonic, as well as our idea of aliens, can be very shaped by stereotypes, and we're unaware of what's the phenomenon behind it, the nature of it. Yeah.
Nice. So the first part, you kind of go into the findings from the US government, and this is really interesting. I found this really kind of like eye-opening, and I've heard a few podcasts where people talk about, and military sources talk about UFOs, or not UFOs, but unidentified objects or phenomenon, which seems to defy the physical laws, or it seems to do things which are just not expected from any sort of technology we've built. Do you want to go into some part of what you wrote there?
So looking into the history of it, I think we'd go back to 2017, the recent history. 2017, the New York Times posted an article about a $22 million program that the Department of Defense were conducting. They published with that a couple of videos related called Fleur and Gimbal, taken by jets launched from the Nimitz and Theodore Roosevelt carriers in 2004. And those videos showed blurry blobs flying from infrared cameras on the on these jets. But what's profound is what's more meaningful is the voiceovers from the pilots who are like, wow, there's a whole fleet of them, it's rotating, and things like that. Things that we don't see. Apparently there's like a 21-minute version of that video that we can't see. And then the following March, the Washington Post published what they call the Go Fast video. And that was another object tracked by an FA-18 Super Hornet. And yeah, what astonished the military and intel community was the extraordinary apparent capabilities of these objects, these phenomena. The Washington Post article, this is a quote from it, it says, according to incident reports and interviews with military personnel, these vehicles descended from altitudes higher than 60,000 feet at supersonic speeds, only to suddenly drop and hover as low as 50 feet above the ocean. The United States possesses nothing capable of such feats. And there's other insiders in the government who've come out since. There was the guy who quit the Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program, which was spoken of in that first New York Times article, in protest at the lack of transparency the government was having about the whole thing. He's a guy called Lou Elizondo. And he's gone on the record saying, imagine a technology that can do 600 to 700 G-forces. And for reference, a trained military pilot can endure about 10, 11 Gs before they pass out. And our best fighter jets can do about 15 to 17 Gs before they break apart. This thing's doing like 600 to 700 G-forces. And continuing his quote, they can fly at 13,000 miles per hour, they can evade radar, they can fly through air, water, and possibly space. And oh, by the way, has no obvious signs of propulsion, no wings, no control surfaces, and yet can still defy the natural effects of Earth's gravity. That's precisely what we're seeing. The government has already stated for the record that they're real. I'm not telling you that. The United States government is telling you that. And it's the NASA administrator, Bill Nelson, says, now I know what you've seen is what those Navy pilots saw in 2004, and there have been some 300 sightings since then. I've talked to those pilots, and they know they saw something. Their radar's locked onto it. It was here on the surface, then all of a sudden it's there, and they don't know what it is, and we don't know what it is. So it's in the US, it's former presidents, former directors of the CIA, former directors of national intelligence, former and current members of Congress, and the current administrator for NASA have confirmed that the phenomenon is real, whatever it is, and not easily explainable.
And you talk about kind of 5 features which which we've observed, which the data backs up about the phenomenon.
Yeah,
and we should probably stick to those.
yeah, absolutely. You look on Twitter or Reddit or something, you'll see people posting a video of a dot in the sky. It's like, oh my gosh, what is this? It's like, yeah, it could just be a balloon. I'm sure the
Right.
huge bulk of videos out there are rubbish, they're hoaxes, that kind of thing. But yeah, the 5 observables do come from ATIP, as publicized by Lou Elizondo. There's these 5 features, and sometimes 6, but these 5 main ones, which constitute the team of scientists in ATIP. They identified these 5 things that tend to be common features of this anomalous phenomena. The first one is anti-gravity lift. It doesn't seem to have any way of lifting itself, and yet it can zip around. Sudden and instantaneous acceleration. These like 500-600 Gs. Hypersonic velocities without signatures. That means like no sonic booms, no supersonic vapor trails, no splash when entering water, no air cavitation underwater that you'd expect to see. When an object moves at high speed underwater, it reduces the water pressure behind it, and that can create spontaneous bubbles of air. None of that. Low observability or cloaking. Sometimes you can see it with your eyes, but try and take a picture and there's nothing, or the other way around. Or you can't see it on radar, but you can take a picture, but you can't see it. It's really weird. It can seems to pop in and out of existence. And transmedium travel, so it can go between space, air, and water. Whereas we can make things that are quite good at traveling in each of those, but to make something that is so phenomenal at traveling in all of those is another level. Yeah, but the key thing is that these things, whatever they are, they don't seem to act the way physical objects should act. Yet there does still seem to be a physical component to them. I mean, there are these reports about crash retrievals, or someone sees a flying saucer that drops this molten metal that then someone picks up and does some tests and find that it has some really crazy isotopes which couldn't have been created in this solar system unless they were manufactured in a really, really expensive industrial process that we don't know any reason why you'd spend that crazy amount of money to make that weird isotope as a human. Yeah, and so in my mind, these things, they seem to sit at the edge of physicality because they have this like a trans physicality. They don't need to abide by any of the laws of physics that we're aware of. It could just be some amazing technology that's just laws of physics we're unaware of. But it does seem that it toys with every aspect of physics. There isn't one aspect of physics that it doesn't treat as negotiable. It seems to be able to pick and choose, gravity, shall I obey that? Yes, no. G-forces, visibility. It seems to like pop in and out of existence. And
that's the point. It's that it seems to manifest itself physically because we've observed that we have this data. And yet, at the same time, it doesn't seem to have to abide by the physical rules and laws which we're aware of.